Hey, how's it going, everyone? Sean here from MakoCreate, and we are buzzing. We have instantly just absolutely smashed our largest workshop ever. So I think last time I checked, there was about 180 people looking at it. So congratulations, great to have you to be part of it. We are going to be doing some computer game design today, specifically focusing on coding. But there's not just me here with you today. We have Ian Pye, who you'll know from our stop motion animation fame. He's controlling all the buttons and wizardry behind us. There's Ian. We also have Nikki, who is here with us from Halton Library. And when I say here with us, she's not actually in our office with us. Nikki is like you guys doing this from home. There's Nikki. Give everyone a wave, Nikki. And Nikki is going to, she's going to be like you guys, working along, doing the coding with us at home. So, Nikki, do you just want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at Halton Libraries?
I am the Children and Families Officer at Halton Libraries. So basically, all the really fun stuff that kids can get involved with in the library service, I can get involved with that as well. And this is just part of what we're offering this summer.
Fantastic. Well, we just like to say a massive thank you to Halton Libraries, because without them, this stream wouldn't be possible. And we have just been amazed by how popular it has been. This is the first time we've done it out as a live stream, so no pressure to get it right when there's so many of you all here doing it along with us. So just to let you know a little bit about what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be using a software or a website it's made by Microsoft. It's called MakeCode Arcade. We absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It's completely free. So if you enjoy what you do during this session, you can continue doing it. You don't need to have a subscription or anything like that. You can just use it in browser. So that makes it great for projects like this, just to make sure everybody's got the right setup. The ideal setup for this would be a computer. I'm working on a Mac in front of me, but if you've got a PC or a laptop or anything like that, that's ideal. We did have some people asking questions about if they can do it using an iPad or an iPhone or an Android and things like that. And from the comments and things, we see that some people have had some success. So if you've not got a computer, don't worry, you should still be able to do it along with us. But it's just a little bit easier when you've got a bigger screen and a keyboard for doing some of the coding and stuff like that. But hopefully, whatever device you're on, you'll be able to do it. Also, we're going to be going at a certain pace today to make sure that we can get through everything during the time. But the fantastic thing about these live videos is that you can pause them and rewind them if you want to. So if I go a little bit too quick for anyone at any point, feel free just to pause it and finish that bit and then continue watching it. Or if you get distracted and you have to go away, you can always come back, because these videos will be going on our Twitch account, on our YouTube account, and on our Facebook account. So I saw before there's been loads of people putting where they are, who they are. But if you could send us a comment in now, letting us know your name and where you're doing this from, it'd be great to see where in the world we're getting people doing this project from. And also remember to give if you're watching it on Facebook, give us a like. If you're watching it on YouTube, give us a subscribe and all that jazz. I'll have to get more used to the terminology. I'm not even sure what it is on Twitch. Whatever you do on Twitch, do that for us to let us know. I think we've only got 2 followers on there at the moment, so it'd be good to get that one up a little bit. Okay, so what we're actually going to be doing today is we are going to be making our own computer game, but we are going to be focusing on character design and creating our own sprites, which are essentially 2D little characters that we can run around and use within our code. So without further ado, let's get over and start doing it. So Ian, can you share my screen here so that people can see the website that I am on? That'd be amazing. So to find the website that we're going to, it's going to be MakeCode Arcade, and you can get to it via Googling it, but you want to put the URL in. It's www.arcade.makecode.com. And it'll bring up a website that looks a little bit like this one that you can see on the screen at the moment. I've done a couple of projects before on this laptop, so you can see them here. These are previous ones. So any bit of coding that you do will kind of get saved here and saved in your cache on your website, so you're able to do it. But this is a website that we need everybody to get to. And the first thing that we're going to do is make a new project. So you might have guessed that there is this big orange button here that says new project. So that is what we are going to press. And the first thing it asks you to do is to give your project a name. So we're going to be doing a game here where we are collecting things, or we might be call it a chasing game. But I think I'm just going to, for now, call mine collect. Your name of the game doesn't matter too much right now because you can change this throughout it. But because we're going to be collecting things, I think I'm going to go with something along the lines of collect. You can have emojis and things like that in there if you want to, but I'm going to be a little bit boring and just keep it as collect. Okay, brilliant. And this brings us into our arcade, or our mode where we can see what's going on and we can start editing our game. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of what's going on here on the screen and what you guys should be able to see. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have this, looks like a bit like a Game Boy, but this is our kind of like our mock-up. This is where we can play our games and preview them and make sure that they are working and they're all good to go. So this is our kind of emulator, we call it, on the left-hand side, and that helps us make sure that our games are working as we want to. In the kind of middle, we have all these different codes, and these are block code that we can use to create. So if anyone's done anything like Scratch or Tinker or anything along those lines before, you'll probably be coming into this purple mash going, oh yeah, I know this, I've seen this type of coding before, and it works really simply where we have these kind of blocks and they all fit into each other a little bit like a jigsaw. We can also code in JavaScript. If we click this button at the top, it'll switch our view over to looking at it in JavaScript and write our code out. So if there's anyone that's particularly interested in JavaScript, you can do some experimenting in there. We're going to focus on block-based, particularly today. We might look at some JavaScript in the upcoming weeks, but for now, we're just going to focus on it in block-based coding. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a plus and minus that helps us to zoom in on things and to zoom out. So if you're struggling to see what's going on, sometimes it's easy to zoom in or zoom out accordingly, depending on what you're trying to do. And we also have my favorite buttons in the world, which are these two here, which is an undo and redo. So if we accidentally make a mistake and we want to go back to how it was, we can just undo it, or we can click the redo button to bring stuff back if we accidentally delete stuff. And we can also use our download and resaving it and things. And we're going to go into those in a little bit more detail as we go through. Just before I kind of jump in to do it, I just check with Ian. Everything okay, Ian? Any questions or anything like that that I need to go over, or are we all good to get started?
Nothing too much that you need to go over, Sean. We've just got some people asking for the URL again.
Yeah, that's no problem. I think I'm going to put the pressure on you, Ian. Can you do your magic wizardry and get that URL to come back on the stage again? There it is.
A bit like that.
Yeah, there you go. It's like we're a professional setup here. We're going to be fooling them all thinking like, yeah, that it's all professional. Just so everyone's aware as well, me and Ian are in the same room, but we are keeping our safe 2 meters distance away from each other. He's scrolled in the corner in one side and I'm on the other side. So we're making sure that we're still social distancing from each other in this time. You could also just Google, if you just Google arcade and MakeCode, it'll probably be the first one that comes up. To be able to get to this stream. And again, just as I said earlier, if you're not quite there yet, if you're still getting up to this point, when you get to the home page, all you need to do is click on a new project. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to rename it and start one. But I've already made one, so I'm going to go over to my collect, which I called it before, and start it up again so you guys can see where we're up to. Okay, fantastic. So while this is all loading up and getting ready, I think we're ready to start our game. So the first thing that I want to do is set the scene for my game. So at the moment, you can see it's very boring on the left-hand side. I've got a black screen with nothing on it in the background. So what I'm going to do is click on scenes, which is just here. And when I do that, I get a second menu pop up on the right-hand side. And there's tons of different pieces of code in here that we can use and we can find and we can use. But what I'm going to do just to start with, just to keep it quite simple, is I'm just going to change the color of the background. So there's a block which is 3 down. Looks a little bit like a jigsaw with these top indents and bottom indents that says set background color to. And it's like a bit of a gray color at the moment. And I'm going to drag that in. And what I'm going to do is, and again, anyone that's used any kind of block-based coding before will be used to this, I'm going to snap that in. It makes quite a nice little popping noise when you pop it in there so you know what's going on. And you can see that it's still set to black on the left-hand side on my screen. So what I need to do is change this so that it's not black. So if I click on the color icon here, it comes up with a pop-up and it allows me to change the color. Now there's 16 different colors. You might be thinking, why is it black when it's currently set to gray? That kind of gray color is actually set to be invisible. So that's why it's black. So it's almost like there's nothing there. But if I change this to say white, then I've got a little bit of, you see that our background changes to white. I change it to red, changes again to red. There we go. And so forth and so forth. So you need to choose a color that you want your background to be. My recommendation is, if you know what your character is going to be, or I saw that some people have done a little bit of thinking, a little bit of tinkering with thinking of character designs that they might want to do, try and use a color that isn't going to be used in your character. So I'm not going to use a light blue. So I think I might use a light blue for my background. For now, anyway, we can always go back and change it and see how that goes. So now that I've added my background color, I'm going to put in my character, or as we're often referred to in game design, as a sprite. So we can see that at the very top, the first option that we've got in the blue section there says sprites. So if we give this a click, it again brings up our second menu. And this one now has, the very top one has a create section here, and it says set my sprite to, and then it's got a gray box, and then of kind, and then player. So we're going to drag this one in, and we're just going to pop it underneath our background. If you accidentally move this somewhere else, you'll see that it goes a little bit of a gray color if it's not connected in there. And what that means, if you ever see a piece of code that's gray like that, or got those crosses through it, it just means that it's not activated. So this will not actually run in your code. So if you ever see a piece of code that looks like this and you want it to be part of your program, something's gone wrong. It's not quite set up right. So what you need to do is drag it in and pop it in there. And that's it. We've created our first sprite. So what we need to do now is to name our sprite. So currently it's automatically called my sprite. So it says set my sprite to. If we click on this little drop down, what we can do here is rename this variable. So that's the third option down. It says rename this variable. And we can actually call it anything that we want to. It doesn't matter really, but what I would suggest is, because you're going to be doing this one, if this is your first time here, you might want it to be the same as mine so that we can copy and paste and stuff like that. So yours can be the exact same as mine. So if anything goes wrong, it's easy to copy. So I'm going to call this one character. Right. Apologies for my English. I'm dyslexic, so it's the right pain. How have I done with that in? Does that look right? No. I've probably got a million comments here saying that's not spelled right. Character. I think that's right. Okay. I'm going to go with it anyway. We'll change it if we've not. Thanks for the updates in the spelling. And the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to change the design of our sprite. So to do that, a little bit like we did the background, we've got this gray box here. And what we need to do is click on that gray box. And this brings up our editor. So I'm just going to quickly go through the different tools that we've got in this editor here that we can use to design our sprites. We've got a few different tools that are really useful, not just for designing sprites, but for designing levels and all sorts of things. So no matter what we're designing in MakeCode, it's a very similar design feature. So it's good to get hang of this straight away. So in the top left corner here, we can see that there's a little pencil. that's inside a box. And I've got the color pink selected here. So if I move my mouse into my drawing section and click down and drag it across, I can start drawing a little shape here in pink. If I wanted to change the color for my pencil, I could just click one of the other colors here. So I've selected red this time. And if I draw it, I've got it going there. Nice and easy. So you can change the color of your pencil dead easy by just clicking into this box here and choosing a color and then drawing on your page. You can also change the size of the pencil by using these 3 different blocks up here at the very top. So if I wanted to make it a little bit bigger, I can click the middle one and we can see instantly that it's a lot bigger as I put it on the screen. It's almost like 4 times as big. And I've even got an even bigger one. So let me change the color. Maybe put a yellow in now. So we've got a lot of options for drawing the size of our pencil that we're using. Next to the pencil on the right hand side, we have an eraser tool. And again, we can use the different sizes with the eraser. So if I wanted to erase this all quite easily, I'd use the big one and get rid of that, all that yellow one. But if I wanted to only get rid of a little bit of, say, this blue bit in the top corner up here, I could make it smaller and erase little bits of it like that. So I'm actually going to just erase all of it really quickly so we can go and show you some other stuff. So let's get rid of this. We've also got underneath the pencil a square shape. I'm going to make my size a little bit smaller. And what this allows us to do is quite easily draw either cubes like this, or we can drag it out to be a rectangle. So if we're wanting to make a drawing that's made up of shapes, these are sometimes quite handy. If we're wanting to make big shapes or different squares, nice and easy, we can just drag it across. This also is useful when we're wanting to use the tool next to it, which is the fill tool. So the little bucket with a water drop coming out of it. If I'm going to change my color to red. So now I've made this square. If I use this fill tool in the middle of it, we can see that it suddenly fills everything red. And if I wanted everything outside of that to be pink, there you go. That's all pink. So what I'm actually going to do now is show you again my favorite tools in the app or in most software. At the bottom right hand corner, we've got this undo and redo. So I'm going to undo this. And I'm going to undo this. I'm going to do this till I get to a blank canvas. So some of you might be thinking, what are these gray squares, these different colored gray squares? Well, normally when if you start doing a lot of design work, you see these 2-tone gray squares quite a lot. And what they generally used to represent is anything that is see-through. So don't be worrying that on your character, you've got all these gray squares. They will actually appear in your game. You ever see the gray squares looking like this? They are see-through so that you can see through them. Just moving on quickly, we've got this circle tool here. So a little bit like the square tool. If I put this in the center and drag it out, we can see that it starts to, as it gets a little bit bigger, starts to bend the circles and stuff, and it makes it look like a little bit more like a circle. So again, that's a nice way of making a nice even circle. If you're wanting to use circles and anything, works a little bit better on bigger drawings, I'll be honest. We also have a line tool that allows us to draw a straight line, or if we wanted to have a line on an angle, again, we could use this to get an exact 45-degree angle. Just a nice quick way of drawing a line or getting it into a position that you want. We can, in the bottom left of the tools, this one here is what we call the lasso. So what this allows you to do is draw a box around any part of your drawing that you've made and say, I really like this pink paddle that I've made. Maybe I'm making a pong game or something like that, but I want it to be in the middle. I can now drag this and move it around to different sections of my drawing. So I could have this in the middle or on the right side. So it just lets you interact with the drawing that you've got and move it around the canvas. The last one is this hand. And this is more useful, to be honest with you, when you are working on something that is a bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit. So we've got these zoom controls in the bottom corner. And what this hand lets you do is drag it around. So if we had a much bigger canvas, we could drag it around and see it. In fact, let's do that. Let's make the canvas a little bit bigger. So I would suggest that for this game that we're going to make, we keep this at 16 pixels by 16 pixels, which it will automatically be set up as. We can tell it is that in the bottom left-hand corner. It says 16 by 16. But if we wanted to make that bigger, so we wanted to make that twice as big, we'd go 32 by 32. And we see that once I press enter, that updates it and it makes. We had a bad guy in here, we'd want the bad guy to be bigger than our hero. But for now, we're going to make sure we're going to leave these at 16 by 16 for when we're designing our character. There we go. I'm going to delete this one real quickly. And now I'm going to start to design my character. So I know that some of you had done some prep beforehand about your character. I find looking at characters really interesting, because if we think about some of the biggest 2D platformer games, we did a little poll the other day where we were looking at Mario and Sonic, and which was our favorite. But if we take both of those, Mario is a plumber, an Italian plumber, not necessarily the kind of superhero you're expecting, and Sonic is a blue hedgehog that's really fast. And I think we all just kind of like take that for granted now because it's such an iconic character. But the first person that came up with Sonic being a blue hedgehog that's super fast, it must have seemed crazy. So with characters, they don't have to be realistic. They can be absolutely anything that you want to make them. I'm a bit egotistical, so I'm going to make myself. I'm going to do a character of myself, I think. So I'm going to delete that. And so I'm wearing some blue pants. So I've started with my blue color. I'm going to make, I'm on my eraser. I'm going to put my pencil on. I'm going to start drawing in some blue pants. And as you can see, I'm wearing an orange top. So I'm going to be wearing an orange top as well. So I'm excited to see what everyone else has come up with. While I'm doing this, Ian, how are we getting on with comments? Any questions that I could be answering or anything like that? Or is everyone seemingly all right?
We have had a question asking about, can you tell us what the coordinates are for the middle of the screen?
Yes. So I'll tell you what, though, I'll come up to that in a little bit so that it makes a little bit more sense. I'll finish my character and then I will jump in and I'll tell you that, because we're going to be looking at where we're placing them and stuff like that. But I'll give you a clue while I'm drawing mine, see if we can do a little bit of maths together. So the screen size for the MakeCode arcade is 160 pixels wide by 120 pixels high. So while you're a little bit ahead of us, if you're looking for that, you can do a little bit of maths and see if we can figure out what would be what X and Y would be the very middle of the screen. If that means absolutely nothing to you, do not worry. I'm going to cover it in a little bit. But if that's where you're up to, I'm going to draw my beard on here. How are you getting on, Nikki? Have you come up with a concept for your character?
Sorry, I just got chucked out of the Switcher studio, so I had a bit of trouble, but I'm back on. So
you're back on. Oh, no problem. I'll give you a minute, then I'll let you. I'll let you crack on with your character design. Have you got any ideas for it? What you might be?
I think I should be a crazed librarian chasing after books.
Fantastic, a crazed librarian. I'm pretty happy with mine now, actually. I'm looking at it. It's coming together. I'm getting there. So this is a good point. We're going to be moving on from this section soon. But again, if you are still working on yours and you want to spend a little bit more time on it, that's completely fine. But what I'd suggest to do is possibly if you maybe just carry on with us for now, because we've always got time that you can come back to it and carry on doing it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm happy with my my version of me. I'm going to click the done button in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will pop my character into my game. So, yes.
Can I just quickly interrupt you there?
Sure.
Just had a question. Some people, not everybody, some people struggling with audio. So we've had a question from Nandad, who's asking, so they missed the audio, how was the grey and white grid created?
Okay, yep. So if you are new to the, if you just, in fact, let me just drag this out of here so I can show you. Let's automatically put it in. So what will happen is the to get your character in the first place, I'm thinking that's what he means. We click into Sprites and we drag this one here, the very top one, into our on start, and that will give us this empty box here. And if we click on that, let me drag that into there. If we click on that, then that gives us the grey and white section, or the two different grey tone sections. I think that's what he's asking there within that question. And that's how you're able to do that one. So you click into Sprites, drag the first one in, and then we click on this grey box here. I think that might be the bit that they got a little bit lost on that box there, and that is where you design your character. I'm going to get rid of this section now.
Just one more question before we move on. Somebody's asked, Christopher said, can you draw a character in another art package and import it in?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't think you can, unfortunately, within this one, just because it's quite strict on the colors that are used within inside it. So a question that we often get asked about is, can we change the colors that are available down the left-hand side of the screen here? That is possible to do, but you are restricted to 16 colors. It's not something that we're going to do in this week because it is a bit of hard coding that we have to do to be able to implement. So we have to know exactly what colors we want to have beforehand to be able to do it. It might be something that we cover in the later weeks once we get a little bit more up to scratch with everything, because we need to do that via JavaScript as well. So I'm not going to look at that this week, but if you tune in for some of the other weeks, I might have a quick look at that so that you can get a little bit more advanced in it. No, unfortunately, you do have to draw them within this one. There is bits and bobs we can do to copy them from other games that we've made in the same section, but not for this section here. No, fortunately, you're going to need to get your art skills out to be able to do this one. Okay, so now we've got our character, and we can see on the left-hand side that my character has automatically placed himself right in the center of the screen. And so what we want to do now, though, is to be able to control him. So if I use the controller here on my section to drag this left and right, we can see that my character isn't doing anything. So what I want to be able to do is move my character around with it. So to do this, I click in Controls, or Controller, sorry, I should say, which is the second one down. And the very first option here inside single player, because we're making a single player game, is Move Sprites with buttons. We're going to drag this one underneath. Now, it's really important that, in fact, you can see straight away that there's an error come up here on mine. And that is because it's saying there's no My Sprite in the game. That's because I renamed mine character. Questionable spelling. I'm hoping it's right. But what I'm going to do is change that to this one. And that means that I can now move my character around with the joystick that I've got there on screen. Actually, if I use the buttons, my keyboard, my mouse buttons here, sorry, not mouse button, keyboard buttons, the arrows on there, I can also control it with that. So I can move my character around. One of the issues that I've got is that I can unfortunately move him outside the screen, which means he could get lost going around forever. So what I need to do, or what we need to do, is just to edit this so that he just stays within inside the screen. So to do that, what we need is another piece of code, which is inside Sprite. If we scroll down a little bit now inside this one, inside Effects, towards the bottom of it, there's one that says Set Sprite Stay In Screen Off. We're going to drag this one inside and move it just underneath the Move Character with Buttons. Again, we'll see the little error coming up saying, wait a minute, this doesn't exist. So all we need to do is click into this box and change it to character, or whatever you named yours. So you might have called yours your own name. But suddenly we see that this works. This has come back on, the error's gone, and we just need to make sure that we've got stay in screen here, and we switch this on. So change it from off to on. And now, when we move our character around, it makes it impossible for them to leave the screen. So they're always inside the screen. I can see mine's a little bit jiggery there as it's going. It's not very smooth. Yours will be much smoother as you're moving yours around. I'm sure than mine looks on this stream. There you go. The character will move around and we can get it. So we've got our character in place. Fantastic. We've got it so that we control him. Now what we need to do is set up our collectibles so that we can collect something. So a little bit, I'll tell you what, we'll go into the comment section on this one. What did Sonic collect? That's a good question for you. We'll see if we can do a fastest finger first, see who gets there first. What did Sonic collect as he was going around? I'll leave that one there. I'm going to collect something different to Sonic because I am not a blue hedgehog. I am Sean. And the thing that I am going to collect as I'm going around is donuts. Nikki, did you say you were going to do books with yours? Is that your plan for your one?
But I thought it'd be got quite a good range of books that I could go collecting.
Yeah, fantastic. So you're going to go with books. I'm going to go with donuts. I think that is what I tend to run around collecting most of my spare time, particularly during lockdown. It feels like, too many donuts, unfortunately. So what we need to do to get that is create another sprite. So I'm going to go into sprites here. And just like I did for creating my character, I'm going to use one of these create sections. And I'm going to drag it in underneath. So this will go at the bottom. And this time, I'm going to change it from saying my sprite. And because this is something that I'm going to collect, I'm going to change it to collectible so that I know what it is whenever I see it. So I click where it says my sprite. And this time I go back down to rename variables. And I'm going to go in again and I'm going to call it collectible. Sorry. So I've changed it to collectible. And again, I need to design it because currently we've got this gray box here, which means that there's nothing there. So if I click on the gray box, I've got the option to design another one here. I can design a whole new character, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to go on to, at the very top, we can see we've got two buttons. We've got one that is editor, which is to design your own. And I've got one here, which is gallery. And the gallery is filled with existing designs that MakeCode have already done and already put on there for you. So you can see that there's already quite a lot of food at the top, but you scroll down, there's everything from characters of ducks, little characters that you can use in there, this one with a sword and things like that. So I like using these pre-made ones when I'm testing my game just to make sure that it works sometimes rather than spending all the time designing a character. It's easier to just use one of these pre-made ones just to test something out than going through and designing your own one from scratch. So there's loads of different ones there, animals, trees, you name it. There's ones that look like a little bit like a Pokemon there, sharks. So, there's even there's actually a library case there, Nikki, for you. Maybe we're stealing for yours. Yeah, maybe we can use that somewhere. So I'm going to go back to the top here because I saw a donut towards the top. So you can actually see there's two different donuts at the top here. So I've got this one on the top row and this one here on the second row. Now I can tell that one looks slightly more detailed than the other. And that is because this one on the top row was designed in a 16 by 16, whereas the one below it was designed in 32 pixels by 32 pixels. So it's actually twice as big as this one. And what that means is you can start getting a few more details on there and things. I'm going to go with a slightly bigger one. I'm going to go with the 32 one for my one. And when we click it, it actually opens it up in the editor for you. So if you wanted to, if I didn't want that, I didn't want this to be a green, one. I wanted it to be a red one. I could recolor that in, and actually, so you can start, you might even use some of the pre-existing ones and then design your own over the top of them, so you can make it as you want it. For the thinking of time, I'm going to leave this one as it is. But yeah, you could kind of use this as a starting block and then draw over the top of it if you wanted to. So now I've got a massive donut right in the middle. That's just gone over the top of me straight away. It's smushed me so that I'm a little bit smaller than the person that it's going to. So what I'm going to do now is I need to make it so that I can collect it and I know what's going on with inside the game. So what I need to do is make it a little bit different. So if I go back into my Sprites box, I'm going to scroll down here towards the bottom. Loads of different bits of code that we'll probably be covering in some of the other weeks as things come on. But what we're going to do is look for this one here, which is underneath overlaps, because that's how I'm going to know if I've collected this donut, if I've eaten this donut. I'm going to know that I've got there when my character overlaps with it. So I'm going to drag this one into my game here. So we should have now this on start block. And this is the first block that we're going to have that doesn't fit inside the on start one. It's its own block where we can put things inside it. So that should sit either just underneath or maybe at the side. I'm going to drag it down a little bit just in case I need to put anything else inside this first one here. Oh, I've just spotted something I almost forgot to change. So we set our donut up as a collectible. We call it a collectible, but what we have to change is the type of sprite that it is, because I've currently got it set up, if you can see here, as a player, the same as I've got my character. But this donut isn't a player. I'm not controlling him. I'm not moving him around or anything like that. I'm wanting to collect him. So I'm going to click on this drop down from player, and I'm going to choose food. A little bit of a hint here for next week, enemy and projectiles. Those are the two things that we're going to be covering next week in the game that we make. So a little bit of a thing to look forward to. But we're going to change this one to food for now. So we should have the sprite that we designed as a player and the sprite that we're collecting as food. Even if yours isn't a food, even if yours is like Nikki, if that is a book or if that is a gold ring. Did anyone get that, Ian, on Sonic 1? I'm sure we would have got a load of people saying golden rings for Sonic or hoops or what. Yeah.
We did a poll.
Oh, fantastic.
And it was overwhelmingly correct. Everybody, a lot of people anyway, all put rings. So we were in good company, Sean.
Fantastic. Okay, so even if yours is like Sonic, a golden ring, just for this one, we want to make sure it still says food. So there is ways to change that, but just for making it simple in our first week, let's just keep it as food so that it's nice and simple and it'll all work okay. And now I'm just going to talk you through this new piece of code that we've put in there. So this new piece of code says on sprite of kind player. So we know that this one up here that we've drawn is of kind player. So on sprite of kind player overlaps another sprite. So this is another sprite and it says of kind player. So what we need to do in this one is change this player as well to food. So we need to click this drop down and make sure that is on food. So this is, I guess, not really tricky, but this is the bit that we need to make sure that we get right for our game to work. So we need to have player should be this one. The first one, these two should match up, player and player, and of kind food and food should match up as well. So this second sprite food and this second sprite food. And what that means is every time that my character overlaps with this one, this will be triggered. And so what we've got to put in here is some more code now to be triggered. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to have it so that we get a point. So what we can do there is use the pre-built point scoring technology that they've got inside here. And what we need to do to get that is to go into info. So this is about 4 or 5, 6, is that down? Yeah, 6 down, info. And inside the first bit, it says score. So we can see that there is a set score, high score, and what we're looking for is the change score by 1. So we're going to drag this into our game here. And what's happening now, if you can see my preview, it's probably going too fast for people to be able to see it. But we can see in the top right-hand corner of my game, the numbers, the points just flying up there. And that's because them two are just on top of each other. So the points are going through the roof because they're just constantly adding up and up and up and up and up and up and up. So what we need to make it is a game so that I'm just going to stop that so it doesn't crash my computer by the score going up too much. What we need to do is make it so that not only does it change the score by 1 every time they touch each other, but it also changes the location of the donut for me, or the gold coin, or the books that Nikki's making, or whatever we've come up with for yours. I'm looking forward to seeing and playing around with some of the different ones that are going to be made. So what we're going to do now is change the sprite location. So we're going to go onto sprites again. And then the second one down under physics is set my sprite position to X0, Y0. So we're going to drag this in underneath the change score by 1. And what we see here, now when my game reloads, I have to hit play on it, I stopped it. Failed. Let's see that. I see why it's failed. I've got a warning here. So if you ever get one of these warning signs here, something's not come quite right on your game, and that is because this is saying set the position of my sprite. But I know that on my game, because I've renamed them both, I don't have anything called my sprite. I have either a character or a collectible. So I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to change it to collectible. And hopefully that should fix the issue. Yes, and it won't make a fool of me. Fantastic. So we can kind of see that straight away, my collectible's gone right to the very top corner. We can only actually see a little tiny bit of it. We can only see like the top corner of it, or the bottom right corner of it. And that's because it is on X0, Y0. So someone was asking before what the position for the center of the screen was. So because, as I mentioned earlier, X is 160 and Y is 120, that means that the center position would be 80 by 60. But there's an easy way of being able to figure this all out. So for anyone that is not used to working with X and Y locations, X is the length of the game from left to right at the top. So counting from left to right, that is the X. So the reason this is in the top at the moment, top left, is because it's 0, 0. So it starts with 0 over there and works all the way across to 160. And Y starts with 0 and goes all the way down to 120. Because it's a rectangle, this console. It's not a square, so it's not 160 by 160. It's 160 wide by 120 high. So what we can do is change that. So we can just click into this 0, and you see that when you click into it, you get a little bit of a new box that appears, and you can drag this scale across. And as you're dragging it across, it gives you an indication of where it's going to be. So all the way over there is 160. In the middle, we've got, if I wanted it in the middle, I'd put it on 80. And if our game reloads, just thinking about it, that will mean that suddenly the donut would reappear in the middle there. Let's refresh that, let's see if that works. There you go. Yeah, donut's right in the middle. And the Y is 120 maximum. So if I drag that to 60, 60, that would also put it back on top of me. But we don't want to do that because, again, it'll just end up in that everlasting loop of giving loads and loads of points. So in fact, we don't actually want to add a number in there at all. We want this to be random. We want to not know where the donut's going to go, where it's going to appear. So what we're going to use is a little bit of maths. That's right. Unfortunately, for everyone, there's a lot of maths involved in coding computer games. So being good at maths is a great tool to be able to have. But I'm going to go into the math section on the left-hand side, and I'm going to scroll down to random. So here we are, pick random, 0 to 10. So I'm going to drag this one in. And what we can do is, because this has got rounded corners, I've still got this held at the moment. You can actually put this inside these numbers. So you can see that currently it says pick random between 0 and 10. what I'm going to change this to is 0 to 160, so it can go to both sides of the screen. So the X should be set to 0 to 160, a random one. And then what we're going to do is the same for the Y, but we're going to change the number. So I'm going to go back to maths, back down to pick random. And this time I'm going to go from 0 to 120. Brilliant. Okay. So now I'm going to try and play my game. Let's see if this works. So as I'm moving my character around and collecting the donuts, I can see it's a little bit jittery on mine for yours. Hopefully yours is at home a lot smoother. But I'm collecting points as I go around each time I'm getting them. But I could just do this now forever. So I've just got a game currently that is forever and ever. I'm just going to be able to keep going around. So to make it actually into a game where I can, it's not just me picking up points forever. What I'm going to do is add a timer. So I'm going to add a countdown so that I've only got a limited amount of time to be able to do it. So to do that, I go back into information or info on the side, I should say. And if I scroll down a little bit, there is a countdown section and one that says start countdown 10 seconds. So I'm going to drag this one in and I'm going to pop this one actually in the on start section that we had. So rather than going in the on sprite being created, because if I did that every time I did it, I would get another 10 seconds. I'm going to change this to 30 seconds. That gives me now 30 seconds to run around and try and get as many donuts as I can. There we go. I'm getting on. Oh, not very good. So I've only got 30 seconds. Now I've got a time limit, so I've got to try and a score that I can try and beat. How many am I going to get? 7, 6. 25. I've done better than that before, I promise you. It must be the nerves going out to so many people on here. Let's get it. But I want you guys to have a go at that, see how many you can have a go at getting. And then we're just going to add one last thing to our games that'll get us up to scratch.
If I can just really quickly interrupt you, just if you can zoom out.
Sure, yeah.
And we've had a couple of people saying, can we just recap? Can we just kind of like go through it where we're up to now?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll hide this so we can make this a little bit bigger on the screen so we can see. All right, lovely. So just to recap, what we should have on our screen is a on start, which is this green section here. And inside there, we started by changing the background color. You could make that any color that you wanted to. And then we made our character. So we set, and I renamed this character from my sprite to character. This is where we drew in our character. So I've got a picture of me and the kind is player. Then we made it so that we can move our character around. So to be able to move your character around, you need to have this one in here, which says move character. It's important that if you change your name to character like I have, you need to make sure that this is selected here so these two match. And it says with buttons, and that allows us to move our character around. Then we added in a set character to stay inside the screen. This section was found inside the sprite section on the left-hand side. Again, really important that we make sure that these are all named the same so that they know that it's controlling the same thing. So we should have character, 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 or whatever you called yours. Then we added another sprite. So we went back into sprite, added another one, and we clicked on this drop down and renamed it to collectible. So we have character and a collectible. I used the pre-made one to be able to make this donut. So we click in there. You can click in the gallery section at the top to see the pre-made ones. I should say though, actually, this is a good point to say, we're going to be judging the games that are submitted today to win a Kitronic arcade. We're going to be judging them on the characters that you make. So the characters in the collectible that you make, that's going to be the winning features for us. So we're doing it. So what I would recommend is, if you're working on your game now, fantastic. Feel free to use the gallery ones, but we really like to see your artwork. So that's what we're going to be focusing on when we're reviewing, when we're looking through the games that you submit and things like that. So if you're wanting to enter the competition to win it, I'd suggest drawing both your own character and your own collectible when you're adding it into the. And then we're going to look. We need to make sure that we change this sprite type to food. Again, that can be done on the drop-down menu. Just making sure that is on food. And then finally, just now I've added a countdown into this. So to add the countdown, I went into info, scrolled down to countdown, and drag that into here. You can change how long you want the countdown to be. If you want your game to be 10 seconds, that's fine. If you want it to be a minute, that's great. I chose 30 seconds for my one. So to change that, all you need to do is click in there and you can change that. The other section that's separate from the on start is this section down here. Now, this is the section of our code that figures out if there's a collision between the two. So we know if the second sprite, for me, my donut, has been collected. So we need to make sure, let me zoom in on this bit, that this is set up this way. So it should be on sprite kind of player overlaps other sprite kind of food. And the way to make sure this is correct, if you want to make sure that these two are the same, so the first character that we made should be a kind player, and that should be here. And the second one is of a donut or food. So again, as I mentioned before, even if yours isn't food, just make it food for now. It's a nice, easy way of doing it. So if you have a book like Nikki does, or you have rings in there, or you have coins, or you have mushrooms or cash or whatever your collectible thing is, it doesn't matter if it's not food. If you call that food and then overlaps with sprite kind, make sure that them two match up there. That means that this section will work. And then what we did was we changed the score by 1. So every time the two characters overlap each other, we get a point. So we know that we've got 1 point there. And what we've also done is change the collectible. So again, that was what we needed to do on this one. So we went into sprite, the second one down, which was change the position. So we dragged that one in. And then we changed it to collectible, and we used the mass feature. This is a bit that would be good for everyone to make sure they've checked it got right. We used the mass feature, the pick random, which is a little inside the mass feature, a little bit further down, pick random 0 to 10. We put 2 of those inside the number. So that bit, just to show us that again, if I drag one out, as well as being able to add numbers into these, we can also drag these pick randoms inside them. So they look a little bit like this. And so we'll have a pick random. And because the stream length is further than its height, with the X, we need to go 0 to 160. And for the height, we need to go 0 to 120. What we'll do, Ian, as well, is we'll put up a picture of my finished code so that people can check it and make sure that if there's any mistakes or anything like that that's going on with theirs, they can look back over it and kind of make sure that they've got it all right and it all fitting right for them in their code. Oh, my game must have just crashed then on the left-hand side. So what we're going to do, the last thing that I want to do is, if we look at our game here, is it just starts up and it just kind of like gets going, and it doesn't really tell us what we've got to do or how we're going to do it. So what I'm going to do is add in a splash screen that helps us know what the game is, what the rules of the games are, what we want to achieve and things like that. So to do that, we're going to go into a section that we've not actually been in yet. We're going to go to game, which is the third one down. And we are going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to find this prompt section. And there is one called splash. So I'm going to drag this one in, and I'm going to make this right at the very beginning. So right at the very start. So on the very top of the on start, I'm putting this splash into this section. And what this does is, at the very start of our game, the very first thing it will come up with is just some text. And so I'm going to use this to put a bit of a clue into my game about what it's about, what you've got to try and do. So I'm going to, inside this splash section, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so people can see. You can click in there and we can type. So I'm going to put how many donuts. I'm going to click this plus button because this adds another line underneath. So I'm going to have how many donuts, and then on this line underneath it, I'm going to put can Sean less. Can Sean eat? Scroll over here so we can see that. I'm not forgetting my question mark. Okay, so now, zoom out a little bit. So now when we start our game, so let's give this a refresh over here. I come up with this question on the left-hand side. How many donuts can Sean eat? And I've got to hit the A button to start the game. So until I press the A button, it just stays on that splash screen. So if I click the A button, I'm now going. How many did I get before, Ian? Remember?
I have no idea.
I think it was 25. I reckon I can beat that. I'm on the ball now. I'm getting used to it.
Well, speaking of high scores,
yes.
We've had some questions and they kind of relate and saying somebody's bragging, saying they got 300 and something because of where they were getting their character and collectibles to spawn.
Yes.
And somebody else is saying, my game isn't working, spawn on my ham and get a high score every time. So can we recap that bit?
So yeah, if the section, if someone was saying theirs is not working because it's spawning on the same section, that is this section down here. And what you've probably got is we've probably not got this choose random permission, these random X and Y's, because that is the bit that makes our game interesting, because we don't know where the donut or the hat did. Was it a ham, did they say then they had there? Or did they not say? Yeah, ham. So on yours. So I would suggest if your game isn't working because it's not spawning in the right position, that this is a section you need to work on. So making sure you have this set collectible, if you've named them collectibles, or you might have named it ham or whatever you've called it, and then changing the position of it, because that was a bit like mine. So if I get rid of this on here and just have it so that it's on one and then I refresh my game, that's what's happening on mine now. Can you see that mine is just counting up loads and loads and loads, getting hundreds and hundreds of points. I'm going to stop it because no point in doing it. It's not a very fun game. So the bit that you need to make sure you've got, if yours isn't quite working, is this section here. And that is inside the sprite section, and it's the second one down. So this one here needs to be coming. We need to make sure when we dragged it in, we've renamed it so it's the same name as what you've named your collectible, and that we have the random picker for these, because if we don't, if we just put our own position in there and it's not random, it means that every time it respawns, it'll just respawn in the same place. So this is really important. So these randoms, again, just to recover that, are inside the math section, and they are towards the bottom. It says pick random, and what we need to make sure we do is change the number in here. And again, I'll just recover that really quickly. So for the X, we're going from 0 to 160. And for the Y position, we're going 0 to 120. Okay, so hopefully most of us will have a working game now. What we're going to do is look at how we can export that game. How are you getting on, Nikki, with yours?
To get a higher score of 29.
Oh, I think I just got 30 then. I think I'm just one above you on my high score. So we'll go and look at publishing it, and we'll see if Nikki, if we can get yours published, I might put yours on screen so we can have a go at it, see how it looks. So to do that, what we do is we want to share our game. So this is one of my favorite features about this app or this website. It allows us to share our game. So to do that, when we're happy with it, don't worry if you've not quite finished yet. I just want to show you how to do this. You can always go back and keep working on your game, but we click on the share icon in the top left-hand corner. And then when we go to share it, it says, what do you want to name it? So I just called mine Collect at the beginning because I didn't know what I was going to be collecting or anything along those lines. So I'm going to rename mine now. I'm going to call it Donut Eater. And what you've got the chance to do, as well as being able to rename it, you can actually take a picture that goes along with it, or even a little video. I'm just going to do a picture this week. So what happens is, if you press the A button to start your game, you can drag your character to a position where you want it to be. I'm going to drag mine up again. And if I hit this little camera button here, it takes a picture, and we get a picture that will go alongside our game when we're sharing it out, so people have a bit of an idea about what it looks like. And so what I'm going to do now is publish my game. So I'm going to click that big publish project at the bottom right hand corner, and I get this URL. So let's zoom in on this a second. So a couple of things we can do here with this URL. You will have your own unique URL for your game. So this will be unique to you. And you can copy this by pressing the big copy button on the right hand side, and that will make a copy of it. Or you can do it the old fashioned way, highlight it and make a copy of it. And you can put that on Twitter, you can put that on Facebook, you can put that on WhatsApp, anywhere you can put that, you can send it to people, and people will be able to play your game, which is amazing. I think the last time we did this session, we had someone that sent their game to Egypt. I think someone had it playing in Turkey. So you can send it and you can put it absolutely anywhere. There's also the tools to embed it if you have your own blog or anything like that, so you can put it in there. One of my favorite tools, though, is that if you've been making this on your computer and you wanted to have a go of it on a phone, what you can do is use the QR code that's just underneath it. So if you're on an iPhone, they've got a QR code built into the camera, so you can just look at it with the camera. And what that does is it will open a link to be able to play your game on your device. So it looks a little bit more like a gamepad, a controller. So you can play your game and see if you can beat your high score using a little bit like this, as I'm doing now. So that's a fun way of being able to do it. So lots of different ways that we can play our games, and we can put them out to each other. We can also look at one of the other cool things with the finished games is you can actually download them and install them on a physical device. Now, one of the things that we haven't screamed and shouted about enough is our fantastic friends over at Kitronic, who have been amazing, and they provided us with a load of these Kitronic arcade devices, and they are essentially a bit like a Game Boy, but you can put your finished games in that you've completed on one of these. You can download it, put it on it, and play it with an actual real gamepad. So what we're looking to do is we're looking for you guys to submit your finished games to us so that we can have a play in them this week and decide who we think is the best. And we're going to give away one of these on next week's stream. So if you tune into the stream next week, we're going to announce a winner, we'll give it a go, and we'll play it. So to be able to submit your game to us, what we need you to do is go over to our website. That's amazing, Ian. Look at that. No prompt or anything. Straight in there. It's mind reading, knew what I was going to do. So our website is www.MakoCreate.co.uk. And let me just go to our homepage. And then if you land on our homepage, just wait for my internet to catch up with me. This is the actual project page. While that's loading, we'll get Nikki. While we're going through this, could you send me an email with your game on it, and we'll see if we can give it a quick play.
Will do.
Fantastic. So what we do is when you land on the MakoCreate homepage, I've got that up now. Oh dear, we've got the starting in 5 minutes sign back up. Hopefully people can still hear me. All right. There we go.
It's all going so well.
Ian is fired. No, fantastic. So all you need to do is click on projects at the top. And then once we click onto projects, it will load up with the different projects that we're working on at the moment. And in the top left-hand corner of our projects, we have our computer game design coding, which you're all part of. So what we need to do is just click on this one. And then when this loads, what we've done is we've broken down each of the different weeks. So there we go. We can see our graphics. It's all nice and cool. And we can see that there's week 1 on there. So if you're wanting to actually watch back this week's video, you can actually do it through this our website here as well. And there's also a little button here to submit your games to us. So if you click onto that button, it'll open a new window. And we try to keep it as simple as possible. So all the things you'll need here is the maker's game. So this is the name of the person that made the game, probably your name, your age, email address. We need people's email address just to make sure that we can contact them if they are the winning people. If you are under 18 and you are wanting to submit a game, that's great. What we just need is the email address of a parent or guardian or carer or someone that we can contact who is over 18 email address. So make sure the person's email that you put in there is over 18. And then finally, the most important bit is the actual URL for the game. So just to be crystal clear, that URL there is this code here, so that you send us this code here. So we can click the copy button, and if I jump back over to this one, we can pop that in there, and that's the code that we need to go into this section so that we know what your game is and we can have a look at it and get it back over there. Ian, do you want to just have a quick go through some questions so while I see if I can get Nikki's game up and running?
Yeah, sure. So let's just have a look at some of these questions that are coming through. One was saying, how do we stop it from going off the edge of the screen?
Yeah,
I've tried to answer it in the text, but if you want to,
I can show you that up. I can do that right now. So if you jump back over to my computer, that is, hopefully everyone can see. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so the section to stop it going outside the edge on my code is this section here. Ooh, zoomed in too much. Wayne's World in it. Is this piece of code here where it says set character stay on screen, and we need to put it on. So it could be that you've actually already dragged this bit in, but you might not have switched it on. So there's a little on-off switch there. So what we need to do to get this bit of code again is inside Sprites. And then it's a little bit further down. So we need to scroll down. Let me zoom out so I can see that again. Sorry. A little bit further down in the Sprites. Where is it? Where have I lost it now? Oh, there it is. I've gone down too far. Sorry. Above projectiles, it's in the effects section, the bottom one in the effects section there. So we need to make sure you drag that in. Make sure you rename it to whatever your character's called, and make sure you've turned it on. And you want that in the start block. So we just turn that on at the beginning, and that will fix it. So, oops, I accidentally dragged in another one of those. Get rid of that. Fantastic. And I think while we've been doing that, I've actually got Nikki's section here. So let's go and catch. Click A to start. Fantastic. Let's see how I get on.
Yeah, I've only just realised you can actually split the opening, the splash screen.
What did you say your record was, Nikki? 29?
29.
Let's see if I can beat it. It's you. If it's a self-portrait, your character created.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, 6 seconds. Yes. Oh. New high score. We'll post out this Nikki's as well online so that people can see they can smash me and make mine. I bet there'll be someone coming with 300 now and make mine look terrible, pathetic. So fantastic. Brilliant. Well, hopefully we've all got working games or ones that are nearly finished and nearly working. As I said, what we'll do is we'll take a screenshot of my finished code and upload that so that people can go about it and look back on it. And as we said right at the beginning, don't be worried about rewatching this, pausing it, rewinding it, going over the same bit a few times to make sure you've got it in. That's the nice thing about this video. It'll be online so you can rewind it, review it, and take it and look at it as many times as you need to get it right for you. Something that we are going to be doing, though, is that we have just announced that we are doing a expansion pack workshop. And what that is a little bit different to this. Obviously, at the moment, we are going out on Facebook Live. Ian, how many people have we had watching us? Is that too hard to say off the top of your head?
Putting me on the spot.
Putting you on the spot.
We've at the moment, we've got over 150. I think it was around 200 at one point.
Fantastic. So we've had over 200. So obviously, it's hard for us to be able to interact with you all directly, answer questions that you've got. So what we thought we'd do is an expansion pack, which is a workshop that's going to be taking place on Monday. I'm just going to jump over to our Facebook page now so you can see where the event is. And so each Monday after the live events, we're also going to do what we are calling an expansion pack, and that's not going to be going out on Facebook Live. That's going to be a shorter, smaller project, which is designed for us to be able to talk directly to you. So we'll be streaming it out over Zoom. Here we go. This is it here, the expansion pack. So it's going to be going on Monday the 25th at 10 o'clock. And so there's only 15 tickets available for this. So the idea is that it is a smaller session with fewer people in there so that we can talk to you on a one-to-one basis, help you with your code. And what we're going to be doing is building on from this code here today. So if you finished your game, we could be looking at things like adding lives into there, adding enemies, making it more versatile, adding different types of timers, and just generally going in a little bit of a deeper dive. So if you really enjoyed today and you want to carry on and take this a little bit further, we're going to have each week an extension pack workshop, which is going to be a private session just to up to 15 people. So get those tickets. There's only going to be 15 of them on sale each week. So if you want to do that, that is something that is going to be available for you. We are going to continue, though, to do these free sessions once a week on Wednesdays at 2 p.m, joined by the fabulous Nikki, looking at some of the fantastic games. Ian, have I missed anything out here, or do you reckon we're just about there with it now?
I've just put Nikki on the screen. Nikki, have you got anything to add?
No, I thought that was really good. I managed to follow it quite well, and I even managed to make my own little sprite, which I'm quite pleased with. So yeah, I feel quite as if I've achieved something today. Thank you very much.
No problem, Nikki. Just to say thank you very much to Halton Libraries, who have been amazing and helping us partner in this project to get it up and going. And also, again, a massive thank you to Kitronic for providing us with the arcade devices to be able to give away free each week. So one last time, what we'd love you to do is to carry on working with this. You don't need to submit it to us right now, so feel free to carry on working on it. Oh, we have got a submission deadline, though. Actually, that is a good thing to be pointing out. What we want is if you can submit your games to us on Sunday by the latest, that gives us a couple of days to have a play through them and choose our winner for the next one. So got a deadline of Sunday for completing your games and sending it to us, so don't worry if you've not finished it right now. And again, just to re-go through that, what you need to do is go to our website, go onto the projects page and choose the computer game design one. And if you go a little bit down, you'll see that there's a submission form for week 1, which is just here. And you just click on submit your game. And let me just make that a bit higher so that we can see it above. Oh, thank you very much, Ian. Just need to click on submit your game, and that'll bring up this sheet with all the details that we need for you to submit your game. If anyone's having any problems with that, just send us a message. I'm sure we'll be able to sort you out and help you on the way. But yeah, that's it. That's everything that we're going to be doing. Thank you very much for everyone that's tuned in. Welcome, and thank you for being part of our biggest ever workshop. I've been amazed that it's all gone so swimmingly as well. Brilliant, Ian. Ian deserves a big round of applause, I think, for making this all work.
It was just like clockwork,
yeah.
Exactly as we rehearsed. Just really quickly on that submission, some people have been leaving some comments saying that you've had multiple young people doing it, which is amazing. The form was stuck on one submission only. We're working on opening that up, so if you are working on more than one game, you will be able to submit more than one game, hopefully pretty soon. Just try again in a couple of minutes and that'll be up. And a few people again just asking about where you submit it. go onto our website, exactly like Sean said. Do you want me to recap that real quick, Sean?
I can do it if you like. So what you need to do is go to submit it. You need to go onto our website, which is www.MakoCreate.com. No, it's not. It's .co.uk. Brilliant. Ian, do the fancy on-screen graphics so I'm not getting it wrong. So there you go. So MakoCreate.co.uk, and that'll take to our homepage. Across the top, we have got home, what's on projects. You need to click the projects button. From there, you'll be able to find our computer game design project, our 5-week computer game design project. And all you need to do is just scroll down on this page until you get to the section that looks like this. I'll leave it on the screen for a second so it can catch up. And on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see that it says submit your game for a chance to win. Click on this here, and it will bring up a new window that looks a little bit like this one, and you'll be able to submit your games. Yes, please feel free to submit multiple games, or if you've got multiple young people making different games, just do one each for them so that make sure we get it and we can look through it and do it. But no, that's amazing. I'm so happy to have streamed so many people. One last thing you can do though is if you want to, we've now got next week's live event on our Facebook events. So if you make sure that you give that a going to or interested in, that means that you'll get a reminder throughout the week. So we know what it's like trying to remember all these different things that are coming up and going around. So if you give that event a going to, and if you give this stream a like and a subscriber, you're on YouTube. And did we find out what you do on Twitch? Let's just say follow on Twitch, or a retweet on Periscope if we're on Twitter. We just hope that you've all enjoyed doing this. Oh, actually, just one last thing I guess we could talk about. I said it right at the beginning. If you've enjoyed this and you can't wait till next week to do some more, there are loads of tutorials inside the I'm going to click the home button here on my screen. Inside the MakeCode arcade, we have been focusing. We've used this tutorial here, the very first one, the Chase the Pizza, as a bit of an influencing for this one. So if you're wanting to do this whole project from scratch, this one here, this Chase the Pizza, is very similar. We changed a few things in there, but it's quite similar, so you can do it again using this one. But there's tons and tons and tons of live streams and different things. So if you just can't wait till next week and you want to carry on doing some coding and things like that, get stuck into some of these, some fantastic ones that you can do. And there's different levels ones, so you can see that there's an advanced one, and there's basic ones and things like that, and block-based games and JavaScript ones. So loads and loads of things that you can do there and carry on coding. So yeah, I think we've gone off for long enough now, and I think we've covered absolutely everything. So just from myself and from Ian, and I'm sure from Nikki as well, thank you very much for tuning in with us and doing this session. And we all look forward to seeing you again next week when we're going to be focusing on enemies and projectiles. So a little bit of homework for you for next week. You don't have to do this, we can do it, but what I'd suggest is maybe think about your favorite enemies. I know it sounds like a hard thing to do, but your favorite enemies that there are in video games, whether that be Wario or Knuckles. Knuckles is an interesting one. Good guy and bad guy. Ian, on the spot, favorite video game bad guy.
Oh, here we go. You throw me under the
I know.
It's got
Darth Vader, Stormtrooper, some of the Star Wars fans.
Star Wars fan. I got to go with old school Mario, either Donkey Kong or Bowser for me.
I'm a big zombie game fan myself. Quite like any type of zombie coming at me. Yeah. So, Nikki, I'm throwing you under the bus here. Do you have a favorite video game or TV bad guy that you might want to put in a game, or book? Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, literacy bad guy that you put into a video game.
Well, I think it'd have to be Voldemort.
Oh, Voldemort. You could make an amazing pixel art Voldemort. Yeah. So have a little think about what you're going to be doing. And we're going to be looking at projectiles as well. So I guess for Voldemort, it'd be a spell maybe of some sort that it'd be shooting out. There we go. I think Nikki's already got a game lined up for next week that they're going to be looking at. And we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to do a flying game next week as well. So we're going to have enemies, projectiles shooting at you, projectiles going the other way, and it's going to be a flying based game. So be a bit different, and we're going to change it up each week so we cover something different each week. But just to reiterate, thank you very much for coming down. It's been awesome coding with you. I can't wait to play all your games and see what you've come up with, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
just before you go, guys, just remember this was a live session and it's a free session. So you don't need to pay us anything. But what you can do to pay it forward, and it costs you nothing other than a little bit of time, is make sure that if you're watching us on Facebook or if you're watching us anywhere else, head over to Facebook/MakoCreate, give that page a like and a follow. That'd be amazing. If you are on Twitter, head over to twitter.com/MakoCreateUK. Give us a follow on there. That'd be amazing. And also Instagram @MakoCreateUK. Give us a follow on there. It costs you nothing, just a few seconds. And what it means is you won't miss out on any details about workshops like this one or anything else that we're doing. If you're following us everywhere you can, you're not going to miss out on anything. So pay it forward, give us a bit of love, and it means that we can carry on doing things like this for you for free. Have I covered everything, Sean?
Yeah, I think we can just wave and say goodbye now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So there's all three of us.
All three of us. All right, let's give them a wave and say goodbye then. See you later, everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday, and we'll play your games, and we look forward to showing you the winner next week.
Okay.
Adios.